Energy that does not chase, does not defend, does not seek affirmation. It simply is. Vibrational presence is not measured by how long you meditate each day or how many seconds you can stay silent. It is the living energy field you emit when your mind, emotions, and body no longer race toward the future or recoil into the past. It is when you are truly here, not occupied by worry, expectation, or hidden fear. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self that freedom stretches only as far as the limits of our consciousness. If you are not fully present, you still live within the unconscious sphere of control, where your energy reacts instead of choosing. Think of someone you have met whose mere entrance into a room brought you comfort, safety, or renewed vitality. They may not be strikingly handsome, talkative, or eager to prove anything, yet they show up fully. That is the power of presence. No showmanship, no tactics, yet the entire space around them shifts. Because when you are present with yourself, you need nothing to make an impression. You are the impression. If you are still reading, pause for a moment, put down your phone, and close your eyes for 5 seconds. Notice whether you are here with me, or if your body is seated while your mind has wandered elsewhere. This is a small test of presence. If you realize you are not fully here, you are not alone, because presence does not come from intention. It comes from practice. Jung described the process of returning to the center of the self, individuation, as a journey through layer upon layer of illusion, wounds, and unconscious reflexes, until nothing remains but unconditional presence. In Psychology and Alchemy, he wrote that the self is a union of opposites par excellence. Only when you stop striving to become something smarter, more likable, more independent, can you begin to be fully present as your complete, undivided self. A beautiful example of this comes from Daniela's story. For years, she fell into the same cycle. Meet someone new, feel excitement, then let anxiety take over. She began analyzing every message, waiting for positive reactions to feel safe. Yet all of it left her exhausted, until one day she made what she called a decision of radical stillness. She did not withdraw from life, she withdrew from reaction. She stopped chasing connection, stopped strategizing, and each day simply practiced presence in her body, breath, heartbeat, silent space, without forcing herself to feel better, only to show up more authentically. A week passed, then 2. Nothing dramatic occurred, but gradually, she realized she no longer felt turmoil when she did not receive a response. She no longer clung to every small change as if it were a lifeline. She felt clear. From that clarity, the connections that came to her no longer repeated old scripts. No tension, no struggle, because she was no longer attracted by black, but by a magnetic field of grounded presence. You may ask how to attain that presence. The answer is not in a checklist. It lies in letting go of having to do to become. Jung never taught self-improvement like a machine. He invited us to live fully as the self that already exists. He wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that becoming does not come from chasing something new, but from pausing long enough to realize you have always been here. Just be present. If this resonates, leave a single word in the comments. Present. Not as a YouTube habit, but as a reminder that you once forgot yourself somewhere and are now returning. No more chasing, no more controlling, just presence. From there, everything begins to shift, not because of what you do, but because at last you have truly become yourself. Number 7, vibrational detachment. But presence, though powerful, does not drop like a gift. It results from a deep inner discipline, a willingness to stop reacting, observe instead of controlling, and to face oneself in the silence we once tried to fill. Presence cannot live in a mind driven by anxiety. That is when you need to step into the key Jungian practice of vibrational detachment. Not to become cold, but to return to your whole self, undistracted by the need for external validation. Vibrational detachment does not mean indifference or lack of desire. It is the highest commitment that you will not betray yourself just to keep an unhealthy connection. It begins by daring to notice subtle signs that you are pursuing from an energy of lack, not because you are weak, but because you have grown accustomed to a dependent vibration. That vibration may speak for you through every message, every pause, every glance. You may have felt unable to bear a moment of silence in a relationship, each minute without a reply, sending your mind into chaos, your imagination racing, and your hand itching to act, to write something, ask a question, or check the other person's status. That is not your true nature. That is the frequency of a lack of hijacking your system. Jung warned in The Psychology of the Transference that an activated complex puts us momentarily under the control of an autonomous personality. It means our unhealed wound takes over our actions while we believe we are reacting reasonably, though we are manipulated from within. Or you may find you cannot stand not knowing what the other person thinks or feels. You constantly need confirmation signs or repeated assurances to feel safe. But that need does not arise from the present, It arises from a hidden anxiety that has lived in you for a long time. If you find yourself easily triggered, unable to wait, always needing explanations to steady your emotions, then you are likely not loving but communicating through the vibration of lack. And the world senses it as a cry for help, even if you never speak a word. The way out of this invisible cycle lies not in more action, but in learning to stop the moment the impulse arises. The moment you want to send an unnecessary message, the moment you feel compelled to do something to hold the connection. Jung pointed out in the Red Book that in each of us, there is who we do not know who speaks to us in dreams, telling us how differently he sees us from the way we see ourselves. When you pause, you begin to listen to that deep part that needs no control, reaction, only presence. You can begin with a small step by doing nothing for the first 3 minutes of restlessness. Just breathe, do not touch your phone, and do not seek distractions. Then ask yourself whether you want to act because you are present or because you are afraid. That is the practice of vibrational detachment, where you act not from anxiety, but from your quiet center. Create a daily space of silence, even if just 10 minutes, with no screens, no one else, just you and your breath. In that space, whisper, "I do not chase, I do not cling, I am present." You do not need to believe it immediately, just repeat it until the new vibration imprints on your body bit by bit. And if you still return to the old question of how to be loved, then invert it and ask which part of you still does not believe you are worthy. Jung reminds us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Vibrational detachment is not about doing better, but about daring to live more mindfully, noticing what is happening, and choosing not to repeat it. Then when you stop chasing, stop demanding, and stop striving to be seen, a miracle begins. You become what you once sought. You no longer send signals of lack. You manipulate with fear. You no longer need someone to understand you, to feel valuable. You do not attract by strategy, sweet words, or artificial perfection. You attract by the true frequency of who you are when you are fully present and no longer denying yourself. Irradiate. Do not chase. You do not need to attract. You need to live in tune with your frequency. True radiance does not arise from effort, but from clarity in the energy of life. When you stop pursuing not only in action, but also in unconscious vibration, you no longer run toward what you want. You remain in your truth, and from that still point, you emit an irresistible field. a silence full of attraction, a state of ease that allows what does not fit to fall away and what is right to come to you. Therefore, you do not need to become someone else. You only need to return to the center of yourself. Let the stillness speak for you. Let your energy radiate before you enter a room. Let the fullness within be the unspoken call the world cannot ignore. You no longer need to be chosen because you have chosen yourself. And that is the vibration that cannot be resisted. If these insights touch the depths of your being, the desire to live authentically, to be free, and to heal from within, then do not leave, yet subscribe to continue the journey back to yourself, where you need not chase anything, because everything essential has always been within you.